Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Now I am quite excited today because just earlier today November's Doom released a new single. Well, I say earlier today, you're going to be watching it the day after. So earlier yesterday November's Doom released a new single called Major Arcana. Now this is the first new music from them in 5 years. You might remember back in, I think it was 2019. Maybe 2020, I can't remember exactly, they released the Nephilim Grove album, and I covered that quite extensively, talked about it quite a lot, covered a lot of the tracks, and I talked about the entire album, did a whole album review. And I absolutely love this, and you know, this is a band that I've really enjoyed the music of for many, many years. You know, this band started when I was 9 years old. And I don't want to make them feel old, but you know, this band has been around for almost as long as I've been alive. Anyway, you know, like I say, they've been around for a very long time, and I think I own pretty much all of their music from the years. And you know, I really enjoy it. You know, I've said many times that Doom is my favourite genre of metal, and you know, obviously I've mentioned many times that I'm a big fan of things like My Dying Bride, and November's Doom are one of those bands that I really enjoy. And you know, like I say, they've released new music, and I am very excited about it. It's a new track called Major Arcana, which comes off their upcoming album, also titled Major Arcana, I believe. I don't know the exact release date of the album, though, unfortunately. I had looked around for it, but I couldn't find a release date for it. But anyway, it is coming soon. There are pre-orders available for it. I'll put links below to where you can go and pre-order it should you wish to. And why would you not? Because they are an awesome band. But anyway, like I said, the new track called Major Arcana. Now, Paul actually messaged me a few weeks ago just for a chat, because, you know, this is something I find unbelievable. Because after I looked at the Nephilim Grove album, me and Paul, we became friends on Facebook, and he messages me just every now and then just to ask me if I'm okay, you know, how you doing, how's things, how's your mum, this, that and the other, which is a really lovely thing, you know. And it's something that blows my mind, because, you know, I've loved this band's music for years, and now the singer and one of the, like, creative forces behind the band is just randomly messaging me, asking me how I'm doing. You know, it boggles my mind. But anyway, you know, he messaged me a little while ago, and we were just having a chat, and he was telling me a little bit about the new album. And, you know, he mentioned, bloody hell's that? Anyway, he says, whilst he was talking to me, he said, "This entire album may resonate with you, my friend. It's my past 5 years dealing with mental illness, depression, anxiety, and the like, you know." So it's the past 5 years of his life where he's been struggling with mental health problems, etc. And he's attributed it and attached it to tarot cards, which is why it's called Major Arcana. And you know, he was just talking to me about, you know, the things that went behind the album, and you know, the inspirations and stuff like that, as well as, you know, asking me how I was and stuff like that, you know. So obviously over the past 5 years, many of us had been through quite a few things, you know, what with the global pandemic and all of that. But, you know, he's also talking about his individual personal mental struggles and his anxieties, and, you know, the way his mind is sort of wandering off at the moment, you know, thinking about other things, you know, because, not to be rude to the band, but, you know, they've been around since 1989, and, you know, they're getting on in their years, and, you know, starting to contemplate the next sort of where life goes from here sort of thing. So, you know, there's been a lot sort of floating around, you know, that sort of thing, you know, and coming to terms with that sort of thing. So that's where what the album's like. And, you know, like you said, he's attributed it to a tarot deck. And with that being said, you know, if with the actual release of the album, there is a special edition of the album which comes with a deck of tarot cards, which I would really love to see. You know, depending how affordable it is, you know, I might try and get my hands on it, because, you know, it sounds really cool. And, you know, if you look at the pictures of the pre-orders, you know, it looks really cool too. I'd really like to try and get my hands on it. So, but like I said, you know, if I'm going to throw some pre-order links below if you want to have a look at it, if you want to pre-order it. And why would you not? Because November's Doom, awesome. Anyway, I'm talking absolute bollocks. I'm just waffling on at the moment. So, like I said, they released this track early yesterday for those watching this video now, because I mean it was earlier today for me recording this. But anyway, I'm waffling. So they released this track earlier, and I'm really excited for it. I've got the lyrics here. You know, they released the track, put it up on YouTube, and I put a message on their Facebook saying, you know, are there any lyrics available for it? And they were like, no, but here you go. And they just posted the lyrics so I could, you know, which was great. It was very good of them. So these lyrics come directly from the band, so they will, in theory, be accurate. So let's jump into this track and see what we have. So well, actually, before we do that, if you could just take a moment to like and subscribe, it'd really mean the world to me. You know, I've been doing this for nearly 7 years, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed. So if you could just take a moment to like and subscribe, it would really, really mean the world to me. You know, it doesn't cost you anything. It takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and the channel. Anyway, let's get into this song. So, Major Arcana by November's Doom. Let's go.
That burn the light, love and fear, hope and despair, crossroads and choices. In the tower I'll stay. This has gone too far. How long until we're found? How long have I been gone? Child never became a man. Until his father died. Time is turning slow. And when I walk away, how will I be defined? Cycle of life burns the night. Life and death, rebirth and tear. If you judge me as your lover, please today, not tomorrow. This has gone too far. How long until we're found? How Destiny and fate, alchemy and shame. If I embrace this transformation, will I be breaking chains? This has gone too far. Never became a man until his father died. Time is burning slow, and when I walk away, how will I be defined?
God damn it, the song ended. Damn. It's an amazing song. And it's just, it is amazing. There is so much in that. It's such an impactful piece of music. I mean, just the vocal performance alone has so much emotional weight in it. And I've been talking about this a lot recently. In a lot of the videos I've been covering of late, I've been talking about the emotional weight of the performance. Like, you can write a piece of music to have a really deep emotional message in it, but if you don't follow that up with an emotional performance, it loses it. You know, you could write the saddest song in the world, the most heartfelt song in the world, but if you sing it in just like a flat monotone voice, it loses all of that emotional investment that you put into it. I can't remember who it was. There was an artist I covered very recently, and the song they'd put out, it was really deep, it was really meaningful, but the performance was just so lackluster that all of the emotional connection to the song just evaporated. This is completely the opposite end of the spectrum. You know, throughout this track, you've got the very clean vocals. You've got the slightly, it's not vocal fry, I don't think it is, but there is a bit in there, where the voice gets a little bit rougher, and then you've got the deep sort of death metal growl vocals, and there's one point where there is like a holler, a sort of yell, that is just so heartrending. It just adds so much to it. Throughout this track, you can feel anger, despair, frustration, and it screams this in bucket loads. It just throws it all at you, and you can feel it. And again, this is something I've said a million times. A million times? I've said this like a million times. Music is a universal language. Even if you don't understand what the person singing the song is saying, if it's done in a language that's unknown to you, if there is an emotional weight behind that performance, you can feel that emotional weight coming through in the music. It really resonates with you. And the same goes with this song. You can feel the pain, the anguish, the frustration in this performance. Even if you aren't listening to the words, you can feel the music. And that is what I love so much about music, is it can evoke such powerful emotional responses just from words, Even sometimes just the music alone can say everything. You know, one of my favourite examples there is there's a guitar solo in Forever Failure by Paradise Lost. And that guitar solo in Paradise Lost, the guitar alone has got so much emotion to it. You can feel the sorrow that it's trying to portray. And that is what I love about music. This is why I love music so much. And this is why I do things the way I do things. This is why I want to talk about what songs are about. Because if it makes you feel a certain way, surely understanding what the song itself is about will add to that depth. That's why I talk about that's why I always want to talk about the lyrics of the song, is so you can get a full understanding of what the song is, what the song is about. And there are times I might be completely wrong. I might be so far off base I could be on a different planet. But that's another great thing about music. What a song means to one person, it can mean something else completely to somebody else. I think it was Dave Grohl said, you know, you can sing a song to an arena of 80,000 different people, and those 80,000 people will sing that song back to you for 80,000 different reasons, because that song will mean something different to each individual one of them. They will feel it in a completely different way than the person standing next to them. And, you know, that's what is so great about music. And, you know, just the emotional impact just from listening to this, even if you didn't know what the words were, just listening to this song, the emotional impact this song has just speaks volumes. You know, this is why I love this band. You know, there is so much in the music to feel, to experience. You know, it's not just something to listen to, it is something to feel, it is something to experience. You know, and there are many, many bands that I would say that about, you know, because there is so much, and I'm gonna overuse this phrase a lot, there's so much emotional weight in the performance, and that matters. It makes the biggest difference. But anyway, let's actually talk about the song and in general. Now, Major Arcana is related to the tarot deck, obviously. Now, I don't know anything about tarot decks. I'm not going to pretend that I do. But I know Major Arcana has something to do with tarot decks. I don't know what it means. Tell you what, let's just give it a quick look, see if I can spell it right. What is Major Arcana? They are the named cards in a cartomantic tarot deck. Okay, there you go. So Major Arcana is just basically the style of the cards, basically. Anyway, the song itself seems to be a contemplation of mortality and what you leave behind. I could be wrong, but that's what it seems to suggest to me. There's certain lines, and I'll highlight them when I get to them. It seems to suggest, you know, sort of it's contemplation of life, where it goes, and, you know, contemplation of mortality. You know, what will I leave behind when I go, sort of thing. So it goes: images that burn the light, love and hope, love and fear, hope and despair, crossroads and choices, in the tower I'll stay. So, images that burn the light, love and fear, hope and despair. So, images that burn the light. So, is this things that, I mean, burning the light, because obviously, I might be stretching here, but burning the light, it's sort of like things that take up time in your life, because when the light goes out, that is the end of your life. So burning the light is like progressing through life, possibly. Love and fear, hope and despair, these are all things that everyone will experience at least once in their life, and they are like the dynamic opposites of each other. You know, love, fear, hope, despair, that sort of, or normally it's love and hate, but love and fear, hope, despair, that sort of thing. Crossroads and choices, obviously in life we all have those moments where we're at, for example, a crossroads, and we have multiple choices laid out before us, decisions to make that will decide how our future unfolds. In the tower I'll stay. I'm not sure about that bit. This has gone too far. How long until we're found? How long have I been gone? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that is. But there's this bit here. I'm going to call this the chorus. This is when he comes in with his harsh vocals. It says, "Scared inner child never became a man until his father died. Time is turning slow, and when I walk away, how will I be defined?" Now, this is why I think this is like a contemplation of mortality and the sort of legacy that, the sort of legacy you're going to leave behind once you're gone. There's the scared inner child never became a man until his father died. And that's sort of like scared in, you're sort of like, you feel lost and hopeless in the world, and, you always had your, if you were fortunate enough, you had your father or mother there to guide you through your life. And that line there, never became a man until his father died. So you almost had no responsibility, but once the parent is gone, you are now the man of the family. You're the man of the house. It's now your responsibility to sort of provide and to look after the family, sort of thing. He never became a man until that sort of thing was not necessarily forced upon them, but it was something that was bestowed upon him. Maybe he didn't feel ready for it, but with the passing of his father, it's like, it's now up to me. I am now the man. And these lines here, time is turning slow, and when I walk away, how will I be defined? And that to me is like the contemplation of mortality, the sort of what will I leave behind? Time is turning slow, because let's face it, life doesn't go by too quickly. You could be going for 70, 80, 90 years. I hope you all have a long life. Time is turning slow. And when I walk away, how will I be defined? I love those lines. It's the way it's put, when I walk away, it's like, when this all comes to an end, how will people remember me? How will people think of me? Will people think of me as a good man? Will people celebrate my life? Will they miss me? Will I be missed by the world, or will I just disappear without a thought? Which is something that I often worry about, because I have no romantic interest in my life. I have no girlfriend as much as I would like one. I have no friends that live, the person I can call the friends that lives the closest is a good 80 odd miles away. And I live in a small little village out in the back end of nowhere, and it just worries me, that one day I might just shuffle off this mortal coil and no one's going to notice, and that terrifies me. And he's saying there, when I walk away, how will I be defined? So when I leave this all behind, will I be remembered? How will I be remembered? Will I be remembered as a good man? Will I be remembered as a loving father? Will I be remembered as a loving husband? Will I be remembered as a good son? That sort of thing. So it's that contemplation of mortality, that contemplation of, did I lead a good life? Will I be remembered? How will I be remembered? Did I do enough to just not be forgotten, sort of thing? That's what it seems like to me. Like I said, I could be miles off, but I just really like those lines. When I walk away, how will I be defined? It's only 2 lines. It's like, 9 words, 10 words, but it is impactful. Cycle of life burns the night, life and death, rebirth and terror. If you judge me as your lover, please today, not tomorrow. And again, another couple of lines that I really, really like. Cycle of life burns, as it does, We can't move backwards, it goes ever forward. Life and death, rebirth and terror. Basically, the cycle of life, life and death, inevitable parts of life. Rebirth, depending on what you believe. And terror, let's face it, life is fucking scary. It can be bloody terrifying. But these lines here: if you judge me as your lover, please today, not tomorrow. And this is something I've mentioned a few times. I think I've reiterated this a million different ways. If you judge me as your lover, if I mean that much to you, tell me now. Don't leave till tomorrow what can be said today, because you don't know what tomorrow might bring. That person might be gone tomorrow. So, if you judge me as your lover, if you really love me, if you really care about me, tell me now. Let me know immediately. Because, I could pass in my sleep and tomorrow will be too late. You won't have the chance to tell me then. And whilst I'm sure on a subconscious level that I know that you care about me, I want to hear you say it. Because, who doesn't want to hear the words, I love you? I know, sure as shit I do. But anyway, who doesn't want to hear those words? And there's that thing of regret, I never told him how much he meant to me, when the person you care about passes away. You sit there wondering, if he doesn't wake up in the morning, will he know how much I loved him? Or if I don't wake up tomorrow, will they know how much I loved them? Don't leave it until tomorrow. If you love someone, if you care about someone, tell them now. Don't leave it until tomorrow, because then tomorrow might be too late. And again, it's 10 words. 10 words, 2 lines, so much impact. It makes a hell of a statement. It's brilliantly written. And it goes back into that. This has gone too far. How long until we're found? How long have I been gone? And then that chorus, scared, inner child, never became a man until his father died. Time is turning slow, and when I walk away, how will I be defined? So, excuse me. It says, with all our years and through our tears, I want to take it all away. I need to take it all away. Now, I'm not sure what that's talking about. So, with all our years, all the years that we've been together, all the years that we've been on this earth, and through all our tears, through all the suffering and pain that we've been through, I want to take it all away. Is that I want to take it with me? I want to remember this. I want to take that memory with me. I need to take it all away. Again, I need to take that memory with me. When I leave this existence, I want to take those memories with me. Or is he talking about taking away the pain and suffering that one might feel, at the loss of someone, or the pain and suffering that someone has experienced throughout their life? All the struggles that they've been through. Does he want to take that away? Does he want to take all that pain away from them? Or does he want to take the memories of all the time they spent together with him as he moves on? It's unclear, but I like to think that he wants to take the memories of it says, with all our years and through all our tears. So that's talking about in all the time we spent together and all the time we had on this earth, through everything we went through, through all the tears, all the experiences that we had. I want to take it all away. It more suggests to me I want to take those memories with me as I go. And he says, I need to take it all with me. So I need to cling on to those memories. That's what I prefer to think it means. It might not be what it means, but that's what I prefer to think it is. And again, this comes to what I said earlier about how someone interprets a song. What a song means to one person might mean something completely different to someone else. That might not be how it was intended when it was written, but that's how I like to think of it. Archetypes of the soul, destiny and fate, alchemy and shame. If I embrace this transformation, will I be breaking chains? So, if I embrace this transformation, so if I accept my fate, as it were, this transformation of like corporeal to ephemeral, if I embrace that, will I be breaking chains? Will I be freeing myself? Maybe, I'm not sure. Then it goes, this has gone too far, and then scared inner child never became a man until his father died. Time is turning slow, and when I walk away, how will I be defined? And that's it. So like I said, to me it sounds like a contemplation of mortality, a sort of, did I do enough with my life? How will I be remembered? How will people think of me when I'm no longer here? That's what it sounds like to me. I could be miles off. I'm not entirely sure. But, with what he said as well, with past 5 years struggling with is mental health, depression, anxiety, it sort of leans into that sort of idea of thinking about that sort of thing. Because like I said, I'm 45 and, I sort of think about that sort of like, I'm 45. I've been alone. I've been single for about 8 or 9 years now. I've had no sort of even a hint of any romantic involvement in anyone, and dying alone terrifies me. And it's something that I do think about, because obviously a few years ago, I lost my uncle, and he literally saved my life, and his death impacted me hugely, and I struggled with that for a long time, and ever since he's passed, there's been this sort of shadow hanging over me thinking about that sort of thing. And I didn't even have that when my own father passed, but me and my own father, we were not very close at all. He was not a particularly nice man. But, things like that have a profound impact on you, and it makes you think. And it's really quite grim, it's quite morbid, but there are things you need to take into consideration. Like, I have 2 kids. I haven't seen them in 13 years because I have no idea where they are, because, my ex-wife ran off with them and I don't even know where she is. I miss my kids hugely. And, do they even know much about me? What have they been told about me? Will they even know when I'm gone? Will they even be told? Will they even care? So, it's quite depressing, but then it is doom metal music. But the performance is outstanding. The vocal performance is just unbelievable. It's on point. It's crisp. It's crisp. It's clear. And it is so perfectly executed, along with the music. There's that beautiful solo towards the end, and just the overall performance was just outstanding. I absolutely, I said before and I say it again, I absolutely love this band. They've long time been a favourite of mine, and yeah, it's an outstanding piece of music. I'm really looking forward to when the album comes out, because, you can guarantee I'm going to get my hands on that as soon as possible. There is so much good music coming out at the moment, with the new Paradise Lost and new Novemvers Doom. What's next? New My Dying Bride, maybe? But, yeah, outstanding piece of music. Outstanding. Absolutely beautiful. Brilliant performance. And like I said, so much emotional power in that performance. Beautiful. Absolutely outstanding. But yeah, I don't know what else I can say on that without completely gushing and repeating everything over and over again, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. It would really mean the world to me. I've been doing this for about 7 years at this point, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is a little bit disheartening, because I like to think I do something different than most other reactors do. They'll look at a piece of music and go, yeah, I like it, no I didn't, and you'll get maybe about a 6-7 minute video out of it. They'll go, yeah, I like it, no I didn't, and that's all you get. I like to talk about what the songs are about. I like to react to the song, rather than just listening to it and going, yeah, that's okay. I want to know the story, the morals, the themes, and the stories behind the song. What does the song mean to me? What does the song mean to you? I want to have that conversation, and that's why I do what I do. Because oftentimes I don't think enough people actually take the time to understand what a piece of music is about. There have been times I've covered a track and someone's gone, do you know what, I've never thought of it like that. Or I had no idea that the song was about something like that. You know, so that's why I do what I do. I thought, you know, it'd be something interesting, you know, and I put a lot of effort into like trying to create something that's interesting and perhaps even informative or inspiring maybe. So, you know, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like or a subscribe if you haven't already. You know, it really does mean the world to me. Doesn't cost you anything, takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and the channel. But anyway, that's about all I've got for you for this video. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Never